Welcome back. As we all know, things have ground to a halt in our public universities because the University Staff Union and the University Academic Staff Union called a strike and went on strike yesterday despite a court order. So this morning we are favored to have the National Deputy Secretary General of the University's Academic Staff Union, Mr. Jacob Musembi, and their counterparts, the non-teaching staff, who go under the name of the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU. And we have with us the engineer James Mogoka, who is the National Treasurer. And of course, Mutegi Njau, my colleague, finishing the panel. Let's launch straight into the grave matter of this national strike. You have brought the universities to a halt, so to speak. Or is it just some universities are striking and others, life is going on?
Thank you, Bwana Makali. All universities are on strike. We have a total of 31 universities and constituent colleges. And we have gone on strike because of the non-implementation of a CBA that was mutually agreed and signed between us and what we call in the Public Universities Council's Consultative Forum, IPUCCF, way back in September 20th, 2012.
Why have you decided to go on strike despite a court order? Are you defiant? Are you not breaking the law?
Maybe to answer that, Bwana Mutegi, as far as the union is concerned, we haven't seen that court order. We've only heard in the media. We have not been served. And first, I want to assure Kenyans that both unions are law-abiding leaders. And once we are served, we will respect the law.
Are you saying that if we get a court process server here at Citizen this morning and come and serve you the document, you will call the strike off now immediately?
If you get our secretaries, you know, a union is a structure and there are people who can call off the strike. It's only the Secretary General of the union that can call off the strike, and they can call off the strike under the mandate of the various governing councils. And
okay. We will get into the mechanics of your strike and your apparent disobedience of a court order that is hanging out there, because we have had these arguments on this set that once a court order has issued, once you are aware of it, and a university lecturer and a person of your distinction ought to be aware there's a court order, whether it's been served to you or not. But let's go to the basics. Yes. Why are you striking? What is the issue in dispute? Let the public know the facts.
Yeah, Makali, these are the facts. That we went on strike to demand that we negotiate for better salaries and house allowance for members of staff in 2010. This should have been negotiated way back in 2009 because our CBA cycle is 2 years. The last CBA was for 0810, which was honored, of course, after strike. We could not negotiate for the 2010-2012 CBA because the managers in the universities could not hear our plea that we need to negotiate the CBA. So we had to go on strike. We went on strike, we negotiated while on strike, and we were able to get 7.8 billion basket.
Yes.
Then now we sat and mutually agreed how we will implement. That is how we can be able now to spend the 7.8 billion in enhancing the house allowance and the basic salary of members of staff in public universities. That was agreed, mutually agreed between the two parties. And we signed and we registered the CBA in the industrial court.
That's
and
right.
We have a certificate.
Yes.
So immediately after that, now things started happening.
What happened? Some money was paid out, or exactly what transpired to lead up to this 3.7 dispute over this 3.7 billion?
3.9.
What happened?
What happened is this. In September, when we signed and agreed how we are going to implement the CBA, university managers, the vice chancellors, sat, decided to amend the schedules and paid out amounts that were not agreed in our CBA. The first tranche was 3.9 billion. They paid members of staff at the rate of 17%, starting July 1st, 2012.
Right.
And then we realized that they had been left with money. So our struggle to get all the 7.8 billion paid started way back in 2012.
Right.
Then the second tranche came in 2013, July. That was another 3.9 billion. Now this was supposed to cater for arrears, stretching back to 2010. We also realized that after the payments were done, the managers in the universities were left with a lot of money. So we have been asking them to pay out to the last cent of the 7.8 billion. This has been the struggle.
Okay.
You remember very well,
I don't understand. Are you saying what you were paid was not enough? Or you were paid to your satisfaction, but money was left? There was excess money. Is that what you are saying?
No, Mutegi, what we are saying is this. There was a CBA.
Yes.
That was mutually agreed and signed by two parties.
Yes, yes.
And this CBA was not honored in as far as the payments were concerned.
So in your calculation, 3.7 billion
Yeah.
is still left with the universities?
Yes.
3.9 to be specific.
3.9?
Yes.
How do they explain that? Of course, you must have been in correspondence. All we are hearing is your side. The universities are not
yes.
forthcoming. So, but they must be communicating with you.
Thank you, Bwana Makali. Maybe a little background is in order. On 20th September 2012, we did sign a CPA with the universities, and the government promised to release 7.8 billion towards a review of the basic salary and house allowance for university workers. And the good minister then, Honorable Gidai, requested the unions to understand that the government position then was not able to release the total 7.8 billion.
Right.
And therefore agreed and wrote to us that we are going to release the money in two tranches. The first tranche will be released immediately, that is on September 22nd, to be paid to the staff. Then the second tranche was to be released in the medium-term expenditure framework of the year 2013-2014, and therefore we expected it in July 2013. When the first tranche was released, which of course was not released immediately, we had to pick it, they implemented it in November. First of all, they implemented without any document. And we asked the universities, how did you implement the money released by government? Because when we look at our records and our signed CBA, it does not correspond to the rates we agreed, because the CBA was being implemented in the final phase, the third year.
Okay.
Remember that we were negotiating under circumstances that were beyond, because normally we negotiate the CBA for 2 years. This case, we negotiated for 3 years because the Salaries and Remuneration Commission said that after 2013, we shall be taking over the negotiation process. And therefore, universities must clear the backlog CBAs so that when the Salaries and the Remuneration Commission takes over, then they start from a clean plate. Then we agreed with the universities. Can we then negotiate, instead of having the 2-year cycle, can we negotiate for 3, so that when it comes to July 2013, we start from a fresh start with the SRs? And we did that.
Yes. Yes.
Now, during the implementation in January 2013, we wrote to the universities, can you explain how you paid? Because the figures you paid does not correspond to the signed CPA.
Yes.
They refused to listen. We wrote to the ministry, can you order the universities, because being the parent ministry, can you order the universities to explain to us how they paid the money they got from government?
Yeah.
The ministry did not listen to us.
Yeah.
And therefore we said, probably, let's give them the benefit of doubt and wait for the second tranche, so that then we see probably the balances that are remaining, when they get the second tranche, they shall pay the full complete CBA.
Yes. When was this second tranche?
The second tranche was coming in July.
Last year?
Last year. Yeah, last year.
Yeah. Did it happen? Did they add the money?
Now, that's where the rain started beating us. Around May, when the budget process was being completed, we did realize through our friends in the budget committee that the ministry and therefore universities had not factored in the money for the second tranche.
Yes.
Yes.
I see.
And later we were informed that probably the ministry was able to budget 2.1 billion, while the implementation of the CPA required 3.9 billion. Then we had to seek the intervention of the committee, the Education Committee of Parliament, to intercede on behalf of the union, so that then the total money required for the implementation of the CPA is released.
Yeah. The question one would ask is this, then why are you blaming the universities when perhaps they didn't get the money? Have you established the universities, the vice chancellors got the money?
After after our picketing, eventually the good government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta released all the money, the 3.9 billion to the universities.
Okay.
What happened? Then the university managers...
When was this?
In last year's budget?
Yeah, in the last year budget. That's
the current budget, so to speak.
Yeah, the current budget.
So what happened is that when the universities received this money, they saw a basket full of goodies. They went to pay the bills. Some were paying pension arrears, which they had incurred way back 2006.
Yeah.
Then the managers decided that probably this is the best time to improve their pay package. They paid themselves 404 million shillings. Then they realized that probably this is the best time now to recruit more casuals and pay part-time lecturers.
Yes.
And then they decided probably this is the money we are going to use.
Okay. You seem to have an explanation from the university of how the money was spent, therefore.
Yes.
So you are actually throttling the universities, knowing well they don't have the money.
Yes. And now that comes to the question. What was the money released for? The money was released for two reasons. One, to review two items, basic salary and house allowance. It's very clear. If the ministry gave very specific instructions...
Musembi, you seem to be in concurrence.
Yeah. And
anything additional to what he's saying?
Yes, we are talking about grades 1 to 15. Grade 15 is the grade of the full professor.
Yes.
Then grade 1 is the lowest cadre in our university structure. So when we are talking about eligible staff who would have benefited from this money, these are people who are in grade 1 to 15, and these are people who are not casuals, these are people who are not part-timers, and that is why we are saying that while the managers of universities knew very well that this money was meant for this, because the CBA is very clear in every reference that you use this money for this, they went ahead to do all these other things, and therefore now money went into other uses.
Now, what is the purpose of your strike? Since the money was spent to universities, and the universities spent the money, now when you go on strike, do you expect the professors to pay the money from their pocket? Because the government cannot pay again. You are not asking the government pay again, because they paid. The government paid. Now what's the purpose for your strike?
But Mutegi, the issue is this. The purpose for this strike is for us to have the CBA honored, since the good government of Kenya.
The government
by
has
the vice
honored.
chancellors.
The government has honored.
Yes, the vice chancellors broke the law.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why is it vice chancellors and this university is employing their staff independently, each according to its charter and the staff